Grandpa's fake check was meant to embarrass me. That's literally what they told me. My parents even laughed in my face. They thought it was all a joke. They pointed at me, mocked me, called me gullible, said I'd never learn. And yeah, it hurt. It hurt more than I ever admit out loud. I was just standing there, holding that fake check, trying not to cry. Well, they laughed like it was comedy night. But everything changed the moment I stepped inside the bank. The clerk looked at the check and froze. She didn't even blink. Then managers rushed out from the back room, and security surrounded me like I was carrying something dangerous. The room went silent. My heart dropped. Because that's when they told me this check wasn't fake. It was real. Dangerously real. And in that moment, I realized everything my family believed was about to blow up in their faces. They laughed at me yesterday, but by tomorrow, they'd be begging me to pick up the phone. And trust me, I wasn't feeling generous. Keep watching, because what happened next changed my entire life. My hands still trembling softly as the clerk watches me, like some threat or some stranger who wandered in here carrying something dangerous. The lights hum overhead cold, and fluorescent whitewashing every inch, harsh as managers whisper nearby, trying not to stare but staring anyway. I breathe in slowly, trying to stay calm, trying not to shake, trying to remember yesterday when everyone laughed like I was a joke. My parents at dinner pointing at the check, calling it Grandpa's prank, saying he loved jokes, especially cruel little ones that made people blush. My mom laughed hardest hand over her mouth, like embarrassment tasted sweet, like my humiliation fed her, like it was entertainment served on a plate. I remember shrinking down, feeling smaller and smaller as they nudged me, teased about the ink, the crooked signature, the fake fancy amount. I held it quietly, feeling heat in cheeks, feeling the sting of being the target of my own family and my own home. But here now the air feels different, thicker, heavier, unstable as the clerk swallows and steps backward as if I'm explosive. She calls security's softly voice, barely a whisper, but I hear everything, every syllable slicing through like cold, sharp metal against my ribs. 2 guards approach, slowly, hands lowered, but ready eyes scanning the check like it's a crime scene or a hidden threat I didn't understand. I clutch my purse, trying not to tremble, but my fingers betray me, curling too, tight around the leather strap like I'm holding life. The manager steps forward, older, steady voice but worried eyes. He asks me calmly to follow him to a back room. My stomach flips hard, my breath stutters, and I feel heat crawl up my neck as people in line turn to stare. Their eyes widen, their whispers rise, as if I'm dangerous, as if I'm guilty of something terrible I didn't even know. I walk forward, slowly, heart pounding painfully, every step heavier than the last, echoing through silence like guilt I never earned. Inside the back room, the door clicks shut, and the cold hits colder than outside, colder than humiliation, colder than yesterday's laughter. The manager sits down, gestures to the chair right across from him, but I stay standing, knees too weak to trust entirely. His hands fold together, firm but trembling slightly. He looks at me, really looks at me like he's measuring danger and trying to be calm. Then he says it softly, carefully, slowly. This check is legitimate. My throat closes instantly, like I swallowed fire, like air escapes me, like the world tilts sharply, violently, sideways. But he isn't done, not even close, because his voice drops even lower, tighter, afraid, and it's not just real. It's government flagged, high value priority, higher risk circulation. And whoever issued it isn't an ordinary person. My heart slams hard as he leans closer, eyes narrowing slightly, scanning my face, searching for answers I don't even have. He asks quietly, almost suspiciously, "Miss, who exactly gave this to you?" My breath catches, because I know what name he expects, some criminal, millionaire, or dangerous stranger involved in something dark. But all I whisper is, "My grandpa." The room freezes solid, his expression shifts sharply, eyes widening with realization, with something like fear and something like urgency that steals my breath. He reaches for a phone, hands shaking slightly. As he dials someone important, clearly, because his tone changes to something formal, tense. I stand there quietly watching his voice tighten, hearing scattered words. Yes, confirmed. Serial matches? No, she didn't know. Yes, she's here now. I'm keeping her safe. Safe, dot. The word hits hard like a warning flare, like danger is near. Like something bigger than a simple check is about to unfold. And then he hangs up, slowly turning toward me as silence thickens and fear rises like smoke around us. His voice is low. You need to sit. I swallow hard because something deep inside me whispers one truth. This isn't about money. This isn't about jokes. This is something larger. Eh? And Grandpa knew. The manager leans in and says quietly, "There's something else you need to know." The room goes still and every breath feels sharp, dangerous as I brace myself for whatever comes next. And then he says, "This check was never meant to embarrass you." But before he finishes, the door opens sharply and someone unexpected walks in. The door swings open hard without any warning and a tall man steps inside the small room, his suit crisp, dark. Government-level serious eyes scanning me like he already knows something I don't understand. Something buried deep, something tied to that check in my purse. Dottie closes the door. Quietly behind his entrance, yet the silence he brings feels thunderously loud like the entire building. Exhales in nervous tension like every wall leans closer, just two. Listen, the manager straightens instantly. Back rigid and formal, like this man outranks everyone inside this branch, like this situation is officially beyond their control. The man sets a folder gently on the table, but the movement feels sharp, precise, intentional, and then he looks directly at me, unblinking. "You're the granddaughter," he says without hesitation, his voice low, gravel warm. Disturbingly steady, and something cold slides through my bloodstream slowly. I nod once, barely, afraid I might collapse because his eyes hold a weight I can't decipher, like he's holding information that could break me. He approaches carefully, hands visible, palms open as if I'm fragile or shell-shocked or both. And he says softly, "You're not in trouble." But the way he says it terrifies me more. The room feels tighter with each passing second, air thinning around my chest until it aches and my pulse climbs faster than my breath can. "Your grandfather left a file." He continues slowly, "a sealed file that triggers under specific conditions." The manager glances at him nervously, throat tightening, and I see sweat gather at his hairline. The man opens the folder, just 2 inches, enough to show papers, stamped with red warnings. "Read that?" Feels louder than the room's silence. "Read that?" Feels like danger disguised as ink. E. Pauses before revealing anything more to me, studying my reaction. The whole uncomfortable time like he's deciding how much truth I can handle. "That check you deposited looks innocent," he says, "but its serial number activates a security protocol." My stomach twists painfully when he adds, "Your grandfather knew exactly what he was doing." My breath stumbles out in small broken pieces because Grandpa was gentle, silly, always smiling softly, the kind of man who warmed rooms effortlessly, not the kind who leaves government triggering checks. The man reads my confusion instantly and continues, "He wasn't just your grandfather, miss." "Not exactly." And the way he emphasizes "not exactly" terrifies me. The manager shifts nervously in his stiff leather chair, fingers tapping lightly against the shiny desk surface, creating small echoes that throb inside my temples. The man walks closer, lowering his voice deeply. "Your grandfather asked that you be protected." My pulse trips violently at the word protected because it sounds like something dangerous is coming. Cling to the chair's back just to stay upright, my fingers digging too hard into the wooden frame as sweat gathers cold along my trembling palms. "Protected from what?" I whisper through dry lips, my voice barely a sound but still shaking badly. "But neither." Man answers me immediately. Instead, The suited man pulls out an envelope sealed thick, edges worn like it traveled far, and places it gently into my unsteady hands as if it carries something too heavy for words, that the paper feels warm, almost alive with secrets, like whatever is inside knows more than I do, like it's been waiting years just to find me. The man's expression sharpens. Solemn, unblinking, he left this for the moment you arrived here. My heart jerks painfully as he continues. He told us you wouldn't come willingly. My knees nearly buckle when he adds softly, he said you'd only come after they mocked you. My breath catches, throat burning from sudden realization, because Grandpa somehow predicted yesterday's humiliation, the laughter, the teasing, the pointed fingers at dinner. The moment I felt small enough to believe the check joke, my chest rises sharply as fear threads through me, because none of this makes sense. Not any piece, not the seriousness, not the protocol, not the timing. I slowly lift the envelope, terrified to open it, terrified of whatever truth Grandpa hid inside, terrified of how much I never knew about him. The suited man steps back, giving me space, but his eyes remain fixed carefully on my hands, watching like the moment matters more than anything. The room feels unbearably quiet as I breathe, every inhale trembling, every exhale uneven, strained, and then I slide my thumb under the paper seal. But before I pull it open completely, the suited man raises one hand urgently and says in a low, steady warning, "You need to prepare yourself first." My stomach drops violently, too hard to ignore, and fear pushes sharp heat behind my eyes as he adds slowly, heavily, quietly, because your grandfather's secret changes everything you think you know. And just as I tighten my grip on the envelope, the door behind us rattles from loud banging. 3 fast knocks that sound like an emergency. The manager jumps, startled, face instantly pale, and the suited man turns sharply toward the door, eyes narrowing with a sudden edge of alertness. Someone outside shouts urgently through the wood, "Serve, there's a problem." She's not the only one here. The banging grows louder with every passing second, 3 sharp hits rattling straight through my spine, each one sounding heavier than the last, like someone desperate is forcing their way inside, like whatever waits behind that door isn't friendly. The suited man stiffens instantly. Posture razor straight, his hand hovering near his jacket. Instinctively, like he's trained for situations that go sideways, situations that start exactly with knocks like this. The manager's breath stutters, hard in his throat, his fingers trembling against the polished wooden desk, and I feel the room tilt with rising panic, like the walls are leaning closer to listen. The man moves silently toward the doorframe, steps slow, measured, barely touching the carpet, and he signals for me not to make noise, a small gesture that sends chills down my arms. He cracks the door open just 3 inches, enough for a sliver of hallway brightness, and someone whispers urgently from the other side, "They're here, asking for her right now." My chest tightens painfully at the word "they," because I have no idea who they are or why anyone would come looking for me. The suited man shuts the door, immediately locking it with a soft but final metallic click, one that rings far too loudly in my ears. He turns toward me with controlled urgency, eyes hardening with something between warning and fear. "Listen carefully," he says, voice low and firm. "Whatever happens next, do not open that envelope." His tone slices straight into my nerves like ice. My fingers clutch the envelope even tighter, its weight suddenly terrifying against my palms, like it's a fuse waiting for the spark. "What's going on?" I whisper shakily to him, but he just shakes his head once slowly, as if the truth might shatter me completely. The manager pulls the blinds closed with trembling hands, blocking the window that faces the crowded lobby, and the room darkens under washed-out office lighting, making shadows stretch long across the carpet. I hear muffled voices rising outside, the door footsteps pacing, arguing, demanding answers urgently, and a woman's voice says sharply, "We saw her enter." My heartbeat kicks so hard I feel dizzy instantly. Why would anyone look for me? I ask, my voice trembling, breath shallow, chest tightening, but deep down something uneasy stirs inside me, something that whispers Grandpa hid more than money. The suited man steps closer to my side, his eyes locked onto the envelope in my grip. Your grandfather didn't trust many people, he says, and the ones he didn't trust might know this triggered. My blood runs cold as silence thickens again. The knocking shifts into slower, heavier pounding like someone large is testing the door's strength, and I flinch so hard the envelope bends slightly. Move back. The suited man instructs, instantly guiding me behind him with a steady arm. Placing himself between me and the door's danger, his stance wide, protective, unyielding like steel. I step backward until my heels hit the wall, the envelope pressed tight against my shaking chest, its edges digging into my skin with pressure reminding me I'm holding something worth chasing. The pounding stops suddenly and completely, leaving a silence so sharp it hurts my ears, like the world is holding its breath deliberately. Then a voice murmurs outside, low, almost taunting, "We only need the girl." My whole body locks instantly at the words, my throat closing as fear claws against it. The manager mouths a terrified "don't react," pressed flat against his desk like he might collapse, his knuckles white around his shaking pen. The suited man steps toward the desk corner, pulling out a small black device from his coat, something professional, heavy, government-issued, and places it quietly beside the manager's phone. He turns back to me with urgency. "Growing fast, you're leaving through the staff hallway," he says, quietly, quickly, without looking behind you. I feel my breath catch like a painful snag because the fear in his voice isn't small. My hands tremble hard enough to shake the envelope, and I swallow the rising panic clawing my throat. "Why me?" I whisper, voice barely fraying out, but he doesn't give me the comfort of an answer. He only says, "Because your grandfather wasn't joking." My knees weaken violently when he adds, "And because that check wasn't a gift." It was a message someone wanted destroyed. The hallway outside falls silent again, too silent, too still, like someone is listening, waiting for movement, waiting for me to slip. The suited man gestures toward the back corner where a small door leads into a narrow corridor lit by pale yellow bulbs that flicker quietly. "Go," he says, voice urgent but steady. "Stay close to the wall and don't speak." I nod, legs shaking beneath my unsteady frame. I push the small door open carefully, slowly, the hinges creaking softly like a warning whisper, and step into the dim, narrow hallway, alone. But just as the door begins closing behind me, something cold and metallic clinks on the other side, followed by a man whispering darkly through the gap. Too late. It's already moving. My heart drops straight through my stomach, and a cold shiver races down my entire spine as footsteps start rushing toward the back exit. The hallway stretches long beneath flickering yellow bulbs, each flicker making shadows tremble along the walls, my breath shallow, careful, barely touching the air as footsteps echo closer from behind me, fast, not walking, running, closing the distance quickly. I press my hand against the cold wall, its chill grounding me as panic surges hard my pulse, thundering loud enough to betray me, every beat shaking through my shaking chest. I clutch the envelope tight against my ribs, its sharp corners digging deep into my skin, reminding me again this isn't just money, it's a secret someone is desperate to take. The corridors twist sharply like a maze designed thin turns, narrow corners, pipes rattling overhead, and I move fast despite trembling, aching legs, trying to remember the suited man's warning, "Don't look back. Don't make noise. Don't stop." But the footsteps behind me grow louder, heavy boots pounding in purposeful synchronized strides like people trained to chase without hesitation. Door slams open somewhere toward my right, the sudden echo jolting adrenaline through my nerves, and a deep voice barks sharply, "She's heading back." My throat tightens instantly, breath locking painfully. I reach the end of the corridor, finally a metal door marked "Employees Only Exit." Its red lettering glowing under emergency lights, and with shaking hands I push it open, A burst of cold air hits my face, sharp and stinging against my burning skin, and I step into the dim service alley concrete, wet. Dumpsters lined against cracked walls. Night settling heavy across the narrow space. I hear the door behind me swing open, voices spilling out with angry, urgent commands, and instinct rips through me like raw electricity, forcing my legs to move before I think. I sprint down the alley fast as possible. My shoes slapping against the wet concrete, the envelope clutched tight like a lifeline. My breath ragged, uneven, desperate for escape. I glance toward the alley's far end, where a single streetlight flickers. Weakly overhead, its glow barely cutting through thick shadows. The footsteps behind me multiply rapidly, dozens of echoes slamming through the alley, their rhythm steady. Practiced, terrifyingly controlled. My chest burns as I push harder forward, the cold wind slicing tears from my eyes, and just as I reach the streetlight's edge, a large silhouette appears, blocking my path. I skid to a stop instantly, nearly falling, my hand flying out to catch the wall, fear erupting so violently it steals my breath. The silhouette steps into the light, slowly, broad shoulders, dark coat. Deliberate movements, someone who expected me to come this way, someone who's been waiting for me specifically. My knees weaken, dread sinking into my bones, and I stumble back. 2 shaky, uncertain steps, heartbeat hammering wildly against my ribs cage. The man lifts a hand, gently, silent, calm, not threatening, but chilling in its confidence. Your grandfather made powerful enemies. He says, his voice low enough to vibrate through me, and you're walking around holding their leverage. The envelope suddenly feels heavier, sharper, dangerous, as if it's made of glass and fire combined. I hold it tighter against my chest, instinctively, my breath quickening. Legs ready to bolt again, but the man steps forward, one slow, measured step, blocking both escape and any hope of hiding. Give it to me, he says quietly, and all of this ends right now. My pulse spikes in sharp, terrified bursts, fear clawing up my throat as I shake, but something stronger rises behind the fear, a small, stubborn spark deep in my chest, the same spark Grandpa always admired in me. I look him straight in the eyes, finally, my voice trembling but refusing to break. If this is so important, then you're not getting it from me. A long, tense silence stretches between us, thick enough to choke the cold night air, until he mutters darkly under his breath, "You have no idea what you're holding." Before I can react, another voice snaps sharply from somewhere behind the man in the shadows. "She knows enough. Move or lose it." The silhouettes merge into one growing threat, closing in on me from both sides slowly, and the alley feels too narrow to survive. I back away until my shoulders hit the wall, the envelope trapped between me and danger, my breath trembling, heart pounding frantically, and just as one man reaches toward me, fingers outstretched to grab, my arm, a blinding white light floods the entire alley, followed by tires screeching and doors slamming hard. The blinding headlights swallow every shadow, instantly turning the alley into harsh white daylight, and the 2 men freeze. Mid-movement, hands raise slightly as instinct kicks in, their outlines sharp against the flooded brightness. Car. Doors slam open with heavy force, boots hit the ground in fast synchronized steps, and deep, authoritative voices shout commands, instantly echoing off the pastes. Soaked alley walls hard, hands where we can see them. Step back from the girl now. Nobody moves unless we say so. The 2 men hesitate briefly, glancing around, calculating risk, escape, opportunity all at once, but the officers advance too quickly, too decisively, weapons drawn, posture rigid, mission unmistakable. I press myself tighter against the brick wall, breath shaking out of me uncontrollably. As the envelope digs painfully into my ribs, a sharp reminder of everything spiraling tonight, everything I didn't understand until too late. One officer reaches me first, careful, slow, his voice steady compared to my trembling nerves. "You're safe now. Stay behind me, okay?" I nod, unable to find any words, my throat dry, my pulse still sprinting fast. The two men are pushed to the ground, their wrists cuffed behind their backs harshly, their protests sharp, furious, echoing through the alley, but the officers don't even flinch at. Noise. More vehicles arrive with loud crashing urgency lights, painting the night in red and blue, and the entire alley becomes a chaotic battlefield crowded with uniforms, radios, flashing bright strobes, the cold night buzzing with relentless tension. An older officer approaches. Be carefully now. Silver hair, tired eyes. Thoughtful expression, steady. He lowers his voice to a softer tone. You're the granddaughter of Frank Calder, right? I blink hard, stunned. He knows my name, my heart thudding against my sternum painfully, and I whisper, barely able to breathe, yes. He left me an envelope. The officer nods slowly, deeply, knowingly, as if he expected that exact answer tonight, as if this moment was already in motion. Your grandfather contacted us months ago. His voice, low enough for only me, said if anything happened to him suddenly, someone would try taking something from you. My stomach drops sharply. Breath catching midair, my fingers tightening around the envelope instantly as fear and confusion mix violently inside me. The officer gestures toward a safer area near the patrol car, away from chaos, and I follow him across the cold pavement, every step rough, uneven. Trembling with adrenaline, your grandfather wasn't joking. He continues gently. He uncovered financial crimes tied to powerful people. He made an official report and sent the evidence to someone he trusted. I feel the truth hit like a heavy wave, knocking the air from my lungs. It's completely, my hands shaking as realization settles deep. He trusted me. The officer nods, not unkindly. Almost proud, he said. You were the only one who wouldn't sell him out for convenience. My chest aches painfully at those words, a mix of pride, grief, and disbelief, because Grandpa always saw strength. I didn't feel always believed in a version of me stronger than the world ever allowed me to be. The officer motions toward the envelope. Gently, may I? I hesitate, heart pounding violently again, but then slowly offer it to him carefully, my fingers reluctant, protective, deeply emotional. He opens it with deliberate professional precision, revealing documents, layered, thick, and organized names, dates, accounts, coded transactions, confessions, everything glowing under the streetlights. Pale beam. This is everything, he murmurs quietly, his voice shifting into serious command. Mode. This will dismantle an entire criminal operation. I swallow hard, struggling to absorb the weight of the truth, pressing suddenly into my life and those men. They wanted to take it. They wanted to bury it, he answers firmly, and anyone connected to it, including you. A cold shiver runs down my spine instantly, not from the night, but the terrifying truth that tonight could have ended in unimaginable ways. If timing shifted only a few minutes. The officer sees the fear on my face and softens again. Voice steady, reassuring, calm. You did exactly what your grandfather hoped. You stayed brave long enough for us. Brave. The word feels strange, almost foreign, but it settles deep like warm, heavy weight, filling a space inside me, long left empty. As the scene clears, officers transporting the men, others filing reports, securing evidence. Containing danger, I stand still beneath the flickering streetlight, the air sharp. My hands finally steadying. Everything inside me shifts slowly, deeply, painfully, as if grief and strength intertwine for the first time, reminding me Grandpa didn't leave me chaos, he left me purpose, truth, protection, trust. A younger officer approaches with soft concern. You're safe to go home if you want. We'll have patrol near your house tonight. I nod slowly, emotionally drained and heavy, my breath steadying for the first time as I look down the long, empty alley, now strangely quiet after the storm passed. Before leaving, the older officer steps closer again, placing a gentle hand on my shoulder. Carefully, you should know one more thing. He says your grandfather wrote you a message. Heart stutters sharply at the words, my voice cracking when I whisper softly, What? What did he say? The officer pulls a small sealed note, old paper, familiar handwriting, folded gently, and hands it to me with reverence. I open it slowly, breath trembling deeply, my eyes scanning the uneven, thoughtful letters, ink slightly faded. But message painfully clear. If they ever come for you, remember you're stronger than every storm. You're the only one I trust. Do not be afraid to be who you are. My throat closes, tears burning uncontrollably, the night blurring through shimmering emotional waves as grief turns into something steadier. Warmer, deeper than pain. Louder than fear. I fold the note carefully against my heart, holding it like something sacred and rare, and whisper softly into the cold night air, "Thank you. I won't let you." Down the officers finish clearing the alley. Quietly, and I step out toward the main road slowly, the city lights casting warm gold over pavement, guiding me forward through the heavy darkness. And as I walk toward the waiting cruiser, one final realization settles softly inside me. A truth Grandpa understood long before I did. Sometimes the people who laugh at you are the ones who fear what you'll become. And sometimes the loudest answer, the strongest. Answer the truest answeress. The quiet strength of doing what's right.